So again, we will continue solving our quadratic equations. Don't forget our quadratic equations have to be in standard form. Again, I'm going to write it right here. And what is standard form? Well, standard form is where one side of the equation has to equal to 0 and the other side has to be in x squared plus bx plus c type of form. So here we have 3x squared plus 4 is equal to 13x. So this is not in standard form. So I'm just going to rewrite it right here. We have 3x squared plus 4. That's equal to 13x. So again, if I go ahead and I subtract out negative 13x here and subtract out negative 13x here, then we have 3x squared minus 13x plus 4, that's equal to 0. So here we now have it in standard form. One side is equal to 0 and the other side is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So now we want to write this in factored form. Now the leading coefficient is not 1, so I don't have the convenience of simply writing down the parentheses and putting in the x's. We now have to multiply our leading coefficient a here, 3, to our constant over here of 4. And then we're going to develop a 4-term expression and then factor by grouping. So here we have 3 times 4. I'll put it right here. That's equal to 12. Now keep in mind that we have a middle coefficient here that's negative. So what we have to do is we have to come up with two values that when we multiply them together give us a positive 12, but when we add them together will give us a negative 13. Now there's two ways we can multiply two values together to come up with a positive result. That's if they're both positive or they're both negative. And in this case, they both have to be negative because when I add them together, the result's going to be negative. So a simple factor of here, if you haven't spotted it already, would be 1 and 12. And considering that they would both be negative, so negative 1 and negative 12 have got to be the factors because negative 1 times negative 12 is 12. And negative 1 minus 12 is negative 13. So these are the factors. I'm going to use these and I'm going to write this as a 4-term expression. So we'll go 3x squared minus x, that's our negative 1, minus 12x plus 4, that equals 0. Now, I'm sure we can agree that negative x minus 12x is equal to negative 13x. We then group. Don't forget that when you group them, include the sign of the first term of the second group. We then factor the individual groups. We can factor out an x. That'll leave us with 3x minus 1. X times 3x, that's 3x squared. And x times negative 1, that's a negative x. And then we could probably factor out a negative 4. 3x minus 1. And of course, we're trying to come up with a common term again. Negative 4 times 3x, that's a negative 12x. And negative 4 times negative 1, that's positive 4. So since we have a common term again of 3x minus 1, we can factor that out. 3x minus 1, x minus 4, that's equal to 0. So here we have, here's the original quadratic equation that's presented to us. Here it is in standard form. And here it is in factored form. So if we multiply 3x minus 1 to x minus 4, if either one of these is 0, the whole thing is 0. So let's see what that comes out to be. We'll try x minus 4. If x minus 4 is 0, we just go ahead and set it to 0. This is known as the zero product rule. and then solve for this, then x has got to equal to 4. So we'll check it. And I like to check it in the original equation as it's presented to us. So we'll go 3x squared, if x is 4, plus 4, does that equal to 13x? 4 squared is 16. 3 times 16 is 48. 48 plus 4. Does that equal to 13 times 4? And 13 times 4 is 52. And 48 plus 4 is 52. So this is one of the solutions. Or this binomial, if this is equal to 0, then the whole thing becomes 0. So we'll do that. We'll set it to 0. 3x minus 1, if that equals 0. So we solve for x. We could do that. If we add 1 to either side, this gives us 3x is equal to 1. We then divide either side by 3. X has got to equal to 1/3. And of course, we'll check it. 3x, and that's 1/3 squared, plus 4. Does that equal to 13x? 1/3 squared is 1/9. And 3 times 1/9 is 3/9. And 3/9 is the same as 1/3. So we have 1/3 plus 4. Does that equal to 13 times 1/3? That's 13/3. 1/3 plus 12/3. I think everybody will agree that 12/3 is 4, and we write it as a fraction because we want to add them together. And 1/3 plus 12/3 is 13/3. So look at that. X is equal to 1/3 also works. So the solution to 3x squared plus 4 is equal to 13x, while x can equal 4. And x could also equal to 1/3. And I think we have it.